This article that I have pulled up from IndieWire came out last October with the headline, "Is the Blade reboot ever going to happen? A timeline of all the delays so far. 6 writers and 2 directors have cycled through the superhero movie starring Mahershala Ali, and the Marvel film has twice delayed production." And you fast forward to today, and really we have no other updates on it. I mean, there's different writers and directors, but still no word about when this movie will actually happen. And a lot of people are thinking that the movie probably never will happen. They even crack a joke about that in Deadpool and Wolverine. And it's pretty funny because a lot of people ultimately agree with the sentiment. And it's gotten to the point where people are like, okay, if you're going to make the movie, just make the movie already. If you're not going to make the movie, stop toying with us and saying like, oh, it's just delayed. We're working on it behind the scenes, because it really does come across as Marvel Studios has no plans of actually making this movie, and they just don't want to outright admit to canceling it. But there are some people out there who are still hoping that this movie gets made. One of them is the original screenwriter for the Wesley Snipes Blade trilogy, David S. Goyer, according to this article from Variety. Wesley Snipes Blade trilogy writer is ready to help Marvel's delayed reboot get made. What in the world is going on? Why is it taking so long? And I think that's something that everyone is pretty much thinking at this point, because it really shouldn't be a complicated story. You basically have a half vampire, half human hunting other vampires. It's really not a complicated story, and it's one that's I think it's a pretty fun story. A lot of cool action. At least that's what the Wesley Snipes Blade movies were. I mean, you should see more. I mean, we could get more of that within the MCU, and I think it really would help them if they can pull it off properly. I even think Mahershala Ali is actually a good choice to play Blade. If you're not going to have Wesley Snipes, he's a good enough actor. He looks the part, and I think he can do a lot of the action scenes that's required for the role. It's just a matter of getting a good story, and for some reason, the writers at Marvel really haven't been able to nail that one, and I don't understand why. David S. Goyer recently told Screen Rant that he is more than ready to answer the call should Kevin Feige's Marvel Studios need him to write Mahershala Ali's long-delayed Blade movie. Goyer is no stranger to the comic book Vampire Hunter, having written all 3 movies in Wesley Snipes' original Blade trilogy. He even stepped into direct 2004's Blade trilogy or Blade Trinity. And yeah, that's not a point in his favor that, like, yeah, he even directed Blade Trinity. It's like, okay, that was obviously the weaker one in the entry. Famously, Wesley Snipes hated working with him and hated his direction for the movie. But also, Wesley Snipes didn't really want to do the movie, but he was contractually obligated to do it. And he really wasn't professional about it, to say the least. As far as Goyer's writing, I think he did a decent enough job, at least on the first 2 when there was other directors working on it. But in addition to doing the Blade movies, he's also done a number of other comic book adaptations. He was one of the writers for Zack Snyder's Man of Steel films, both of them. And he also, what was it? He wrote Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy too. So he's he's written a number of good movies, also some bad ones too, but just for the sake of argument, let's just assume that he actually would be a good fit for this. I'm not saying that he necessarily will, but he knows what he's talking about, at least when it comes to the character of Blade. And he seems to want to actually make it work, or at least help out Marvel, because he wants to see this project get off the ground, or at least maybe he just wants to work on a Marvel project. That who knows. I've always loved the character, and I love him, Goyer said when asked if he would write Marvel's Blade reboot for the MCU. Presumably he wouldn't do that for free, and maybe that could be part of his motivations. Like, hey, I'd like one of those big Marvel checks. If you give me a call, I've shown in the past that I can do the job, so give me a chance. Honestly, with what we've gotten so far, I don't see how you could do much worse. Or maybe you could do a lot worse than David S. Goyer writing it, but I don't know. I mean, everything that they've done so far really hasn't worked out for them, so maybe they should just consider giving him a shot. I've been sitting on the sidelines wondering what in the world is going on. Why is it taking so long? Because I'm a huge Marvel fan myself, and I've just been totally puzzled. Maybe he could have been working on some stuff behind the scenes. Who knows? He obviously doesn't know the direction that they're trying to take the character, but he could come up with his own ideas and maybe present that to Marvel, and they can try to incorporate that with the future of the character that they have planned and find some way to make that work. I don't know. I mean, it's just a thought. Marvel originally announced its Blade movie with Ali in July 2019, but development has been rocky as several writers and directors have come and gone over the years. And one of the things of note about this, July 2019. So this July, it'll be 6 years since they announced this movie. Now, keep in mind the Wesley Snipes Blade movies. The first one came out in 2000, and the last one came out in 2004. So let's just say a year of production before the first movie. So they had 5 years of production before they got the Blade trilogy out there with Wesley Snipes. We're talking 6 years and they don't even have a script for this one. That really just goes to show that this movie is essentially dead at this point, because is there anything, I mean, they obviously invested money in the writers and other development aspects of it, but I don't think they've spent so much that they can't just cut their losses. I mean, look at Warner Brothers Discovery. I mean, they had an entire Batgirl movie shot and then they're like, let's just get rid of it for the tax write-off. I'm thinking Disney and Marvel probably should do that with Blade, unless they really just need to have this character in the future of the MCU. And if that's the case, then yeah, find some way to make it work, because whatever they've been doing so far really just hasn't been working. So maybe they should think outside the box, or consider at least bringing in David S. Goyer or someone else as an advisor, or someone who can actually, who understands the character and is willing to do what needs to be done in order to get this right. Right. I'm thinking maybe that's not necessarily the problem with what they've had so far. Maybe they actually have good people working on it. The problem is the studio itself, because the vision that the writers that they're bringing on and the directors that they're bringing on have for the character doesn't coincide with the current day Marvel stuff, where everything just kind of feels like it's its own thing and no one's willing to actually kind of step outside that Marvel mold, or at least the studio is not willing to do that. So anyone who comes up with the character or comes up with a story for a character like Blade, where it seems very different from what we've seen from Marvel, that just doesn't work out for them. So they end up having to get a different writer and are trying to find one that gets this character to fit the Marvel mold. And that's just something that really wouldn't work, at least not in a satisfying manner for audiences. Basim Tariq was the first director to join the movie, but he exited in September 2022, roughly 2 months before it was set to begin shooting. Several screenwriters have also been announced through the years, from Watchmen scribe Stacey Osei Kufar to Michael Starbury. Most recently, director Jan Damage, Lovecraft Country, exited the film last June. Feige told Black Tree TV last summer during his Deadpool and Wolverine press tour that not rushing the Blade movie has been a big priority for the studio, explaining, I mean, for the last 2 years, we've been trying to crack the movie. The most important thing for us is not rushing it and making sure we are making the right Blade movie. I think, like I said before, I think the right Blade movie would actually be pretty easy for them to make. The hang up, I'm assuming, is probably just them not being able to fit it within the Marvel mold. Because if you look at the Wesley Snipes Blade movies and then look at current day Marvel stuff and trying to imagine a merging of the two, I don't think it would work out too well, especially if you're trying to have like a more of like a humor filled movie with like a lot of that Marvel comedy, I should put it in there. I mean, even a little bit of that stuff was slipping into Deadpool and Wolverine, but I guess it was a bit more forgivable with a character like that. I don't think you can make it work with a character like Blade. And I think that's the problem with the studio, is they're trying to find something that works. And so far they haven't been able to. So I think the best solution would be to try to just make a Blade movie how a Blade movie should be made, and then just leave it at that. And if it doesn't fit, or if it doesn't feel like it's within the rest of the Marvel universe, well, so be it. You can mix it in later on if you want to, but I think for the time being, you should try to just tell a good Blade story and not necessarily worry about what's going to come after. And I think that's been a problem with Marvel in recent years. Maybe things like that will change. I know Thunderbolts isn't doing fantastically well at the box office, but the audience reception to it has been pretty positive, and that's a movie that's it still has a lot of the Marvel isms within it, but at the same time it's also trying to be a little bit different tonally. So maybe that could kind of give Marvel Studios the green light in order to understand, like, okay, we don't necessarily have to fit everything within this template. We can go outside that a little bit at times, and maybe we can find some success with that. I think that would probably be the best solution to all this, but that's just what I'm thinking. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And also, do you think it would be a good idea to bring David S. Goyer on as a writer for it? Or do you think they should just leave him out of this entirely? And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.